In today's Columbine report, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office concludes, quote, Harris and Klebold seem to have lived two lives. Their friends and family describe them as normal teenage boys. Others describe them as outcasts, but they left behind evidence of a much darker and sinister side. This darker side was an aspect they apparently shared only with each other. Not exactly so, as we learned from two of Harris and Klebold's close friends who talked exclusively with ABC News.
When I look back at it now, there's quite a few things I could have picked up and said, if I had put them all together, I probably could have figured out they were going to do something. I mean, the fact that they liked explosives, the fact that they liked guns, the fact that they had a lot of hatred towards people in the school.
Chris Morris probably spent as much time with the two killers, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, as anyone else in that last year of their lives.
It's so hard to even think about everything that's happened, because these were two people I thought I knew that I actually seem to know nothing about, and it's hard for me to understand, even.
Now Chris sees everything in that final year differently, starting with a visit the year before the shooting to this seasonal fireworks stand. Chris, Eric, Dylan, and another friend, Corey Friesen, who graduated from Columbine 2 years earlier, helped close down the stand. In return for their work, they got fireworks.
It was a lot of fireworks. I think Eric and Dylan took about 8, maybe 10 of those boxes, and so they had a large amount of fireworks.
You know, and when we got as many as we did, they were like just ecstatic that, you know, we'd walked out of there with so many like huge boxes just full of fireworks.
Later that summer, Eric and Dylan began taking trips to the mountains. They began extracting the gunpowder from the fireworks to make pipe bombs.
I had heard Eric and Dylan talking about them taking one of them up to the mountains and blowing it up. And they said that they had left a crater in the ground that was around 4 feet deep and around like 8 feet wide almost.
Eric, Dylan, and Chris were working at this blackjack pizza shop. One day, Dylan came to work boasting.
Well, Dylan brought in what I believe to be a pipe bomb. And it was about, I believe it was about this long. It was more than a foot, I think. And it was about this thick around. It was very, very large. It had a fuse that laced down the side of it, and me and the owner told him to get it the hell out of the store. We wanted nothing to do with that. That was the only time I'd actually seen one of the pipe bombs.
As their senior year began, Eric and Dylan complained more about the jocks and the culture at Columbine. Corey remembers Eric threatening to blow up the school.
You could just see it in his eyes. You just get a cold glare in his eyes and say, one of these days, I swear I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And it's like, come on, you know, lighten up a little bit.
I think Dylan on one occasion did say, wouldn't it be kind of fun to sit on the soccer field and shoot at the school? And, like, shooting out all the windows would be kind of fun. And, you know, everybody at the table there, you know, they kind of laughed a little. We thought he was all joking.
Chris and Corey say they know these statements sound horrible in the aftermath of the killings, but at the time, they didn't think of telling their parents, let alone the police. To them, it was just Eric and Dylan's twisted humor.
Here you are, my good friend Dylan, almost halfway to school. What's up?
How is it that their parents did not know? Chris says the little Eric and Dylan revealed to their friends they expertly hid from their parents.
Ready to torpedoes, Mr.
I mean, Eric must have done a very good job of hiding his things, though, because his parents did search his room occasionally.
In fact, Chris and Corey say Eric told them his father did find a pipe bomb.
And Eric's like, yeah, did you hear? My dad found a pipe bomb. I'm like, oh, man, that's gotta suck. I was like, you know, I figured, you know, he was gonna be in, like, some really big trouble.
All his punishment was to go up to the mountains with his dad and blow it up.
But to this day, the Harrises have not commented on any of the events related to Columbine. Several months prior to the shooting, there was something more Eric couldn't hide: his ever-changing moods.
I would say he actually did change over the year before the Columbine incident.
When he'd hit some mood swings, he'd really get, you know, just that intense glare in his eyes.
Apparently, his parents noticed too, and he was prescribed an antidepressant.
And towards the end, I had been told that he actually stopped taking his medication. And sometimes it was almost frightening to see one minute how he was a very nice, happy, normal guy, and the next minute he was very, very angry, almost sinister at times.
But only a week before the incident, nothing seemed to be bothering the two. In fact, Chris says, Dylan was very excited about going to college. And Eric also had plans.
I remember Eric talking about the future. I remember Eric talking about he wanted to go to school, and he wanted to get some degrees in computers, and he wanted to work on computers and make games for a living.
On April 20th, 1999, the day of the killings at Columbine, Chris finished his classes early and headed to Corey's house.
Good evening, everyone. The reaction of so many people today was, oh no, not again. Another high school, Columbine High in Littleton, Colorado.
Eyewitnesses say the two gunmen wearing black trench coats and black masks came in shooting and began working their way through the school.
Me and Corey both started to get very angry because they said the people in the school doing it were wearing trench coats. And at that point in time, the only people who still wore trench coats in that school were Eric and Dylan. Everybody else stopped wearing them. And right away, I just had a feeling that it was them.
They just started coming in the library and opening fire and shooting out bombs.
Chris says he desperately tried to reach the police to offer his help. He thought if he could talk to Eric and Dylan, maybe he could stop them. But instead, the police picked him up and treated him like a suspect.
They put me in handcuffs, put me in the back of a car, took me down to the park where they had everything set up, and they did a gunpowder test on me and some other tests on my skin to make sure that I didn't have any powders or residues on me.
Were you in the building?
Several law enforcement agencies questioned him throughout the next few weeks. Among the many questions, why wasn't he at school at the time of the shooting?
The police found it very interesting that I had skipped my 4th-hour class that day. I thought it was a very large deal, but if they had looked at my attendance record, they would have seen, oh wait, he skipped this class for the last month.
The police weren't the only ones suspicious. Chris says he was discouraged from returning to school, kicked out of his home by his mother, and fired from his job.
I blame Eric and Dylan. I blame them for what happened. Nobody else is at fault for what happened but them. And I truthfully wish they had been caught. I wish they hadn't have killed themselves. I wish they had been caught. And I wish that they had been able to go to jail for the rest of their lives for what they did.
They were just two troubled kids who just couldn't find any other way to, deal with everything that was going on.
And the question which haunts a broken community torments the killer's closest friend.
Why they did it? I wish I knew the answer to the question of why they did it. I still to this day wonder why they did it. And I'll never get that answer.
In their final home video made the day they launched their massacre at Columbine High, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold speak directly to Chris Morris and another close friend. Quote, "If you survive, you can have our computers. That's it. Sorry. Goodbye." I'll be back in a moment.